All right, I got the frame cleaned up on each side and I've got it marked. So I took the angle grinder just with a sanding disc on there, and I cleaned up the top and the outside of the frame. I'm going to go back here real quick in just a moment and clean up the inside again with a wire wheel. I've done that once already, but I noticed on this side here on the inside I got a little bit of crud in there yet. So I marked a center line. I marked a center line on each side. That one's not perfect. I let my scribe slip a little bit. So, and then I went 1/8 of an inch on each side of that center line, and then I've got an angle line going down. So what I'll do is I'll cut across the top on each side, and then I'm going to clamp a piece of metal in place along the line to use as a fence, and go ahead and cut down. That's probably not totally necessary, but I just like doing it that way. It gives me a really nice straight cut. So I'll get the inside cleaned up, and then the next video is going to pick up, and I'll go ahead and video cutting and letting the jack down and see how close I get. See if my calculating with my piece of 3/16 by 2 paid off. All right, guys, sorry, I get excited about this stuff, so I went ahead and cut that side already, and I got my 2 cuts across up top here, and then remembered that I wanted to video this, so I'll go ahead and clamp my piece in place, and I'll make the 2 cuts going up and down on the angle. Good thing I had a good grip on that. Took a chunk right out of my disc. That was caused by the frame pinching in. I think I just realized I made a mistake here, and what I should have done is I should have had my brace behind the cut instead of in front of the cut, and I've got it in front. So I did it that way because I've still got the drive shaft in place. I need to get that off of there. So let me put a new wheel in, and I'll see what I can do here for getting that back part supported a little bit. All right, I don't know if you guys ever talk to yourself, but I just spent some time talking to myself. So after I finished the cut, I switched over to that blue wheel after I broke it and switched over to a new one, and I came back and I thought I had hit play on video, and I think I just bumped a button and I took one still picture of just the part of the frame. So the work that I did and what I was showing you guys, that got lost. So sorry about that, but what I did is I cut down, and then I dropped the jack down and measured everything. Everything looked good. My front angle on that front cross member was still not enough, so I came back and I reclamped my guide plate into place. And on the back side of the cut, I was really happy with the front side of the cut. On the back side of the cut, I went ahead and took off another 1/8 of an inch on each side. So I started with a 1/4 inch gap at the top, working down to an angle, I made it a 3/8 gap at the top, and I did that on both sides. So right now what I've done is I've got my cuts back together, and they're looking really nice. I went ahead and took the grinder and I beveled those edges so I get a real good weld bead in there. And then what my plan is on the inside, I'm going to take a piece of 3/16 and cut a plate that'll go on the back side of the frame right here and add that in for support, and then I can weld that along the upper and lower part of the frame. And then, you know, with that spot and then going ahead and doing the boxing later on, that's going to be, I think, plenty strong enough. I am going to run a V8 in this, a flathead with a 3-speed, so I want to make sure that that repair is nice and strong. And what this did, and it's hard to see right now, but I will get this out in the driveway after I get things tacked back together here. But by dropping that front down, when I had done my calculations for the back, I wanted to be around 10 to 11 inches. And I was at around a foot, which I was okay with. But as I made that cut and dropped it down, it dropped it really nice and flat that entire length. So almost the same front and back as I had thought it would. So I'm at about 10.5 inches now. And as I measure in different spots, I'm at about that same amount. And the front right now, my angle is good. So I'm real close to that. It's hard to see, and it's hard to see with that sunlight in there. But I'm real close to that 10 degree mark, so I'm happy with that. All right, I got it moved out in the driveway. I went ahead and removed the torque tube and the drive shaft from the rear. So I've just got that piece of tubing stuck over to keep the rear end kind of in place. It's actually even there, leaning too far forward. It's touching on the frame, and it shouldn't do that when it's in the right spot with the axle or the spring. It's good. But everything's looking really good. I did a bunch more measuring, and everything's really close. So I'm really happy with the way it's turning out. Went ahead and got those cuts welded up, and really nice penetration through to the back side. So again, that'll get ground back there, and I'm going to make some plates to go in and reinforce that. The angle on the axle right now in front is all wonky. So I've got, with that dropped axle, I've got major toe in on the front tires. It's hard to roll around. So I went ahead and sprayed the tie rod ends down. So I'm going to see if I can get those loose and pull those in a little bit. So I think my next step is probably going to be getting this back onto the frame jig, giving everything one more check over for measurements, and if I have to tweak anything, I'll do that. But then go ahead and do some more welding, some better welding on the Z in the back and on the front cross member. That middle cross member is not going to work. That's going to need to come out of there. Right now the the drive shaft is going to need to run right through the cross member. So that's going to be gone, but it definitely served its purpose holding everything together. So I'll get a little more welding done on things, make sure everything's solid, and then I think probably after that I'm going to have to go ahead and get the wishbones put into place and at least something to clamp them to the frame, front and rear, and possibly go ahead and get those mounted so I can get the rear end in the right position with the spring. Make sure that's clamped in there nice and tight and get that all set up, and then I can go ahead and get it set back onto the drivetrain and get the motor set in place and figure out what I need to do for motor mounts and what I need to do for that rear cross member.